Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your girl Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic, and I am back with another episode of the Curvy Film Critic with Carla Renata. If this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know you were here, and click that bell for notifications if you are on the YouTube. If you're watching this via Facebook Live or Twitter, hey y'all, how you doing? So last week we talked about Snow White, and this week we're going to talk about some other things, mostly some TV shows. I didn't see too many movies this week, and the ones that I did see, they're under embargo at a later date. But the series that I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to show interviews from, is this one right here. It's called Happy Face. It stars Annaleigh Ashford and Dennis Quaid. It is based on a real life serial killer. I'll get to that in a second, but I am going this week to CinemaCon, headed out in the morning, actually. And what CinemaCon is it's like Comic Con for theater owners. And they all come together in Vegas every year in the spring. And all of the studios come and they talk about what is going to be on their slate coming up for the following year, so that the theaters can try to encourage people to go into the theaters to see it. So one of the things that will be shown is How to Train Your Dragon. Is going to be part of a Universal and DreamWorks presentation. And then Disney is going to have a huge presentation where they are going to show some things. They usually show clips from these movies. So we'll see Disney, Hercules, we'll see Bambi, Brother Bear, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Ratatouille 2, Cars 4, Jungle Book 2, Bolt 2, Bugs Life 2, Coco 2, Big Hero 3, and Wreck-It Ralph 3. So Disney has a lot of sequels in their slate coming up this year. Let's see what Brandon had to say for me today. CinemaCon is this week ready for all the animations and announcements, and so am I. If you follow me on Instagram or on Twitter at The Curvy Critic, I will post some things there in real time in conjunction with that. The Life List is streaming on Netflix right now, and I saw this movie. It's really quite lovely. I enjoyed it simply because I'm going through something similar that the character Alex is going through in the film. Alex loses her mother. I lost my dad. So what happens is Alex Rose, played by Sophia Carson, pictured there, her mother, played by Connie Britton, Elizabeth, sends her on a quest to complete her childhood bucket list. It takes her on quite a journey that will make you both laugh and cry as she uncovers family secrets. She finds romance with this dude right here. He's so cute. And discovers herself along the way. It's directed by Adam Brooks, and it also stars Kyle Allen, Jose Zuniga, and Sebastian D'Souza. The Life List, I'm going to come back on camera. The Life List asks some very important questions. It asks about life and love. And so her list is like, it looked like it was about 60 things. It was probably about 20 things, but the very last thing on the list was find love. It's a very, very sweet story. And that, like I said earlier, in the aftermath of my father's death, made me rethink this final chapter in my life. What do I want to do in this final chapter of my life? And because everything is not the way it seems. And so you discover as you get older that your time on earth is very finite. And so when you lose someone of the gravity that I lost someone, it makes you rethink what your purpose in life is and what your purpose moving forward professionally and personally is going to be. So Sophia Carson is absolutely adorable, and she has perfect chemistry with both of her leading men. Love can be found in the most unlikeliest places is the message from this film, in addition to having a life list. In her case, the person ends up being the lawyer for her mom's estate. I love Connie Britton. I wish that we saw her in more scenes other than as in flashbacks as Alex's mom. But The Life List was a really nice film. It's streaming on Netflix right now. You all will really enjoy it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Miss Happy Face. Happy Face stars Dennis Quaid and this young lady, Annaleigh Ashford. It is streaming now on Paramount Plus. Now, I don't review TV shows, as I say here a million times, but I can tell you what they are about and give you some insight into what is going on in the series. So, Happy Face is inspired by the true life story of Melissa G. Moore, the critically acclaimed Happy Face podcast from iHeart Podcasts, and more, and the autobiography Shattered Silence, written by Moore with M. Bridget Cook. Now, at 15 years old, Melissa Moore discovered that her beloved father was the prolific serial killer known as Happy Face. As an adult, she changed her name, guarded her secret while her father served life in prison. This series jumps off from Moore's true life story, and it shows Dennis Quaid playing the incarcerated serial killer who is also Melissa Reed, played by Annaleigh Ashford, her father. Keith is her real life father's name. He finds a way to force himself back into his daughter's life. And in a race against the clock, Melissa must find out if an innocent man is going to be put to death for a crime her father committed. Throughout this series, she discovers the impact her father had on his victims, his families, and the reckoning of her own identity. What I will say about this series is this. Most of the time when we see these types of shows, they are oftentimes seen from the vantage point of the person who is the serial killer. They glamorize his deeds. They put all the focus on him, and we very rarely see how it affects the people that this person's deeds had an impact on, is the best way for me to say it. So without further ado, I'll let you take a look and a listen to these interviews that I did with Dennis Quaid, Annaleigh Ashford, and the rest of the cast from Happy Face. Melissa, growing up with that type of secret, what made you just decide to release and let go and embrace your past?
It was a series over decades. So now it's the 30-year anniversary of my father's arrest. He was arrested in 95. And it was a process that I eventually got to year after year. It was not overnight for sure. But I also, like you, appreciated Jen's approach to the story, because when I watch fictionalized series of serial killers, it is very focused on the serial killer and their headspace and why they did it, not on the people's lives that the criminal affected. So I was very in awe of Jen's choice of telling the story from that perspective.
Everybody has that neighbor, right, that thinks that they're well-meaning, but they just nosy.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had a neighbor like that? Because I got several of them.
That's so funny. Well, you were just saying that you've been in a similar situation where you're trying to have a phone. I mean, like,
oh yeah. Well, so I make true crime documentaries, and there's so many times that I'm on the cell phone with an inmate and my neighbor pops out and tries to start having a conversation with me. I'm like, so that first scene in episode 1 is actually a real portrayal, not of the conversation I had with my dad, but I've had many conversations where it's very awkward to be in this really bizarre world where you're talking to someone in prison and the neighbor is trying to have a conversation
about recycling or something.
Recycling.
I know, that was pure comedy. That made me laugh out loud. Jennifer, what made you decide to go forward with this story? And when did you connect with Melissa in order to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the podcast just driving to work, as I listened to basically all the true crime podcasts. And I was really taken with Melissa's story, and it just felt like a fresh take on a story that I'd heard before. You know, I'd never heard the perspective of the daughter of a serial killer, and, you know, all those like childhood feelings and the complications of loving your dad, but he's got this horrible secret. And I just felt like it would make such an amazing show. And so the first step was meeting Melissa, and, you know, she met a handful of writers, and the first step was just kind of trying to convince her that I was the right writer and I was the person that would, you know, take care of her and respect her story. And but from the beginning I said that I wanted to fictionalize some aspects of it in order to kind of make it a bigger story about true crime and also protect the privacy of certain real people. So, but yeah, from the beginning, it just kind of felt right, I think. And the collaboration has been pretty great.
Yeah.
I would say so. The collaboration has come off with flying colors, and I really appreciate, Jen, when I see a woman take on these types of stories, because I think it brings a sensibility and a sensitivity to it that, no shade toward our men brethren,
Yes.
but I just feel like the sensitivity is different when a woman is behind the helm, and
Yeah.
that's just me. I just feel that way.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Last but not least, I've asked everybody about this quote because I love it. When Melissa's character says, every violent act is a rock dropped in water. If you stay silent, the ripples of trauma just keep pulling everything they touch underneath. How do you all feel about that now on the other side of Happy Face?
Well, there's the lady, and forgive me, I can't think of her name. The French woman said she's placing the shame on where the shame belongs, to her perpetrator. Her husband was assaulting her, drugging her and assaulting her. It was a big case in France, and it really stuck with me that it's true.
Yeah, it is
we
true.
need to put the shame where the shame belongs.
Yeah.
I think that is a wonderful line, because I think it shows, again, if you do not confront something, if you do not speak up about violence, if you do not speak out against it, there is no clear boundary. You cannot draw where it stops. It will continue. It will continue to get greater. When you think of a ripple, it starts out small, but it continues to grow, and it touches and it spreads, whether it's influencing another person. But when you confront it, when you talk about it, when you investigate it, analyze it, and see it for what it is, you can form boundaries around it. You can form how you receive it, and you can also form how you respond to it as well. So I love that line. That's a great line.
Agree. I think it encompasses really the theme of our show, but also the conflict that we have with this true crime machine that we all subscribe to. That's also, again, what makes this show so unique.
That's really the reason for doing this, in fact. I think the reason he did this, it's all wrapped up in sex, that he got twisted around. He doesn't think of himself. He has a very poor opinion of himself, I think, in that way. And he's covering in a way, he's covering his evidence. But Happy Face is about the victims. More than anything else, that was the reason for doing it. And if you like Dateline, 48 Hours, 2020, whatever your choice, you'll love this.
The ripple effect is our show. It's how have these ripples affected the families of the victims, the families of the perpetrators, generationally, two generations later, how's it affecting our kids in the show, played by Ben and Kyla? I think that's exactly what the show is. It's the ripple effect of trauma.
When Melissa says to you, please don't produce me, have you ever done that to somebody or had it done to you and you felt some kind of way?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think we've all felt some kind of manipulation from somebody when they need something from you, or they're trying to get something from you. So I definitely know where that sits in my body, and I've definitely felt it on the other hand as well.
But when you were a kid, your father was a fan of Frank Sinatra songs, right?
That's right.
And he entertained y'all by singing and dancing with these Sinatra songs. So having said that, what Sinatra tune would best describe your experience shooting Happy Face?
Oh my God, what Sinatra tune? Well, I think I think the Sinatra tune that would best describe Happy Face as a whole is probably That's Life. I've been a pauper, a poet, a pirate, a saint, a pawn, and a king, because I think Melissa goes through all of those emotions in this show. She feels up, she feels down, over and out and everything in between. I mean, I think that song best describes it because that is life. You know, you feel up one day, you feel down another, and you just got to keep getting back on your feet.
Look at you. You knew them lyrics too. I am impressed, James.
He sang a lot. He sang a lot. We sang a lot in our house.
I can tell. Did you have a chance to talk with Melissa before shooting, or do you prefer not to speak with the person that you're playing beforehand to be able to assess your own judgment of how she should be portrayed?
You know, it depends on the project. It depends on the circumstances. Luckily for us, Melissa was not only a producer on the show, but she was also overwhelmingly generous and gracious with not only her time and her experience, but her expertise in this space and her expertise in her advocacy work with true crime. So she was so open. I also luckily had an incredible script to work with. Jen Casisio wrote an incredible show. So everything was there for me. The script was a great blueprint. I had a podcast, the Happy Face podcast. I had her incredible book. And she also was there for me anytime I needed, any questions.
So again, you guys, it is called Happy Face. It is streaming on Paramount Plus right now. And it is not focused on the serial killer, but focused on Melissa Moore, who is the subject, who also had a podcast and wrote a book around that same ideology. All right. I also saw, I'll talk about that last, but in the next couple of weeks, I just wanted to let you guys know, in the next couple of weeks, I will be talking to Paul Walter Hauser. He has a film called Luckiest Man in America, where he was portraying a real life dude named Michael, who was on Press Your Luck, the ABC game show Press Your Luck, and Shenanigans Ensue. I'll talk about that next week. Freaky Tales, which is coming to Hulu with my boy from Insecure, and Pedro Pascal is crazy. We'll be talking about that in the next coming weeks. We'll also have some of the cast members and the creatives from a film called The Ballad of Wallace Island. It was a huge hit at Sundance this year. It stars Carey Mulligan, among others. And it is a really sweet, sweet, sweet story. And I will be coming back at some point in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to interview the cast and creatives from Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler's new collaboration since their last time together with Black Panther and Creed. It is called Sinners, and it is for Warner Brothers. So I will have all of those things in the next coming weeks. Today, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about The Bondsman. The Bondsman is, let me come back on camera. The Bondsman is this crazy, it's a crazy ass series that is streaming on Prime Video. It stars Kevin Bacon as a demon slayer. It hits the airwaves on April 4th. I have the interviews with the creatives and some of the cast members. There are no spoilers in these interviews. There are no spoilers. I will not be reviewing it, but there's no spoilers in anything that I'm telling you. So take a look and a listen to the interview with the creatives of The Bondsman and some of its stars, and then I'll come back and talk about Last Take, Rust, and the story of Helena. Okay? Hi, Eric. How are you?
I'm excited to be talking to you.
I'm excited to be talking to you too, because this was crazy as hell.
That was the idea, right? Like he's like,
yeah, Bondsman going to hell and bringing back to life and brought back to life to kill demons. I'm like, come on now.
You know what? I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. Like we really wanted to create a laugh out loud, scream out loud, unpredictable genre mashup roller coaster ride. You've got horror, you got action, you got art, you got country music, you got Kevin Bacon putting chainsaws through demons' faces. Like, I mean, what more do you want, given where the world is today?
Listen, you gave the best description of the show I could have ever gave. That's going to be the teaser for this interview. I'm just saying.
Go.
Now, where did this premise come from? And what was it about it that made you go, I'm all in?
So the seeds of the idea started with another writer, Granger David, who wrote a terrific script that Blumhouse had optioned and Blumhouse had made a movie with Kevin Bacon. So they were talking about that, and then they brought it to Amazon to try to sell it. And I'm a showrunner at Amazon, and everybody asked, "Hey, can you turn this into a TV show?" And now you're watching the pilot that we wrote and the show we created, and so what hooked me was the idea of, wait, you're telling me I get to go make a television show with Kevin Bacon hunting demons at Blumhouse?
I love that. I love your energy. It's great. Now, talk to me about grabbing Jennifer Nettles, because we know that in addition to being an amazing Grammy Award-winning recording artist, she's a very stellar actress as well. So
Yes.
Bringing her in to not only play Mary Ann, but then you brought her in to create music centered around her and Kevin's characters.
When we were in the casting process, I was not familiar with Sugar Land, and I was blown away by her acting on Righteous Gemstones, and then I saw her singing on that show, and then I was like, wait, these songs that I liked for Sugar Land, that's Jen. I never put it together, right? She's just got the most amazing pipes. She's got this God-given talent that is really a stunning combination. And so it was a real coup to get her on the show. And it wasn't my prediction that Kevin Bacon and Jen Nettles would become such good friends off screen that they would go home over the weekend while we were filming and come back on Monday morning. Hey, Eric, we just made up a song over the weekend. Do you think you could use it on the show? And I'm like, so all of a sudden I had original music being co-written by Kevin Bacon and Jen Nettles, like making its way. They write it in character, and Jen was just such a powerhouse talent that we ended up weaving that into the storyline and how it played out in the season. And actually, I don't know if we know this, but they made enough music to actually cut a record, and it's dropping the day after the show drops, and it's all music from the show and inspired by the show. Just the two of them going off on the weekends during production and riffing and coming up with this crazy, awesome music.
I love that, because I did know that Kevin was a musician too. I didn't realize that they were collaborating together to create stuff. So that's awesome. I can't wait to, because I could hear her voice when the songs were playing throughout watching the series. I'm like, that sounds like Jennifer. And then I was like, yeah, that's Jennifer.
That's Jennifer.
Right. I'm listening to the lyrics. She's amazing. I've met her a couple of times. She's really an amazing human being. And we have something in common. Her mom has the same first name I have. So her mother's name is Carla. So she all right with me. I know that most people are afraid of demons, but there's some people that are afraid of clowns too. And with your dad being a former Ringling Brothers clown, I'm just curious, were you ever afraid of your dad as a clown?
I wasn't, but I did grow up hearing that my mom was afraid of clowns growing up, but I guess she decided to marry one. So I guess my mom was. I wasn't, though. I didn't really get a choice. I was born into it.
If you were about to create a title for your family and the Bondsman with 529, what kind of theme song would that be?
Ooh, I mean, it would have to be a little bit more folk heavy. I mean, our sound with the 529s is definitely leans on that kind of folk rock fusion. Gets a little funky though at times. We got a few jazz musicians, but I definitely lean into that kind of Appalachian old time string music. That adds that supernatural feel to it.
Ooh, honey, I love y'all in this series. I did, because y'all are defying gravity. You're showing that women, no matter how old they are and what body type they come in, they can still kick a little ass.
That's right, baby. Thank you. You're always the best. You always know.
Yes, girl, I pay
No damsels
attention.
in distress on this show. No, we are all strong.
Formidable
I pay
women.
attention. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Y'all had firepower. You were going pop, pop, pop with the gun. I'm like, yes. Yes.
Those demons.
When you came to the front porch with that gun, you were like, look, get off my porch. I hollered out loud. But let me stop eating up my time giving y'all your praise. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So in this particular series, second chances is a big thing, right? Second chances under extraordinary circumstances. Would you give someone in your life a second chance the way you all have been given one in The Bondsman? And I'll start with Jolene first.
Oh, I feel like I am the type of person that lives in the world of grace, and I give second and third and fourth and fifth, maybe too many chances, which is something as I mature that I am learning to curtail a little bit. But I do think there's redemption, and I do believe in that.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Yes, yes, I can do it. It wouldn't be easy. And I mean, I was just saying before, the slings and arrows of life, unfortunately, teach you a lot of lessons to be careful about who you trust. But if someone comes to me with a genuine apology or shows that they have really changed their behavior, absolutely, 100%, I can forgive. And forgetting is a little trickier. But I think that don't put that finger at me again. I'm joking.
That
I'm
was me
joking.
saying she has a
Remember
point.
that moment when
That was both of us going, and you're right.
And
I
you're
know,
right.
I know, I'm joking. I was making a joke, totally.
It was a little.
It's a thing between us.
Yes, yeah.
All right, all right. I see you. I see you.
That's the tricky part is forgetting. But you can remember and still forgive, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. As moms in this series, how far would you go to protect your children? And at one point, if any, what would it take for you to just wash your hands and be like, I'm done?
Ooh.
I mean, as a mother in real life, I don't think that my heart would allow me to ever wash my hands and be done. I think the sacrifice that comes when you become a mom knows no bounds. You will sacrifice everything that you are for your child. It is the strongest kind of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really weird, this unconditional love. I feel like, I've told my daughter this, if she did the worst thing in the world and went to prison, I would go visit her every week. I just can't imagine anything she could do that I wouldn't be able to wrap my head around and accept. I mean, she's not who I wanted her to be particularly, I don't know what I wanted, but she has surprised me as she has grown up in these choices that she's made. And what I've been able to do is to learn to listen and to learn to support who she is. And guess what? I've learned so much from her. They are our best teachers.
Oh,
they
my
really
goodness.
are.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a better person for being a mom. I really do. So yeah, I don't think there's anything I wouldn't do.
I love how Kitty, as much as she's going to support him and make sure that he's not going to go back to hell again, right? She holds him accountable. She doesn't let him off the hook.
That's true.
So that's true love, is not just acquiescing and allowing him to be a terrible person, but helping him rise to be his best self.
That's true.
And that's a mom, right?
I really tell him off a few times. And, and I'm telling the
but
truth.
in love.
In love and trying to save his soul
Yeah.
and his marriage and his fatherhood. And he listens to the part that he knows to be true. He does. And it's hard sometimes. Well, she's prejudiced because she's the boss.
You don't listen to me. I mean, if he did, no, I'm just kidding.
But with that, that's my time. I could talk to y'all all day because you're delightful to interview.
That was so fast.
No, that went really fast. But I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you again.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Love you. Always good to see you.
I love me some Beth Grant, mostly because, as an actor, people are always giving you advice on how to navigate Hollywood and how to navigate the stage. And Beth Grant has always been authentic to who she is. She's got that thick Southern accent. She's a certain type of woman, and she has played that type of woman in almost every film she's in, and she has stayed authentic and true to herself, and I love her for it. You guys, The Bondsman will be streaming on Prime Video beginning April 4th. Just to reiterate what we have spoken about already, let me go back. Check out Happy Face. It is streaming on Paramount Plus right now. A few episodes have already streamed. I told you I was going to CinemaCon, so check that out. The Life List is streaming on Netflix with this beautiful couple right here. Miss Sophia Carson and Miss Connie Britton are in that joint. When I come back, we are going to be talking about The Luckiest Man in America, Freaky Tales, The Ballad of Wallace Island, Sinners, and now we're going to talk a little bit about Last Take. This is streaming on Hulu. It's called Last Take Rust and the Story of Helena. So if you guys remember a little while ago, maybe a little over a year ago, no, actually it was in 2021, back in October 2021, the news blew up with the shooting, with this on-set shooting on the set of a film called Rust, starring Alec Baldwin. And apparently what happened was a prop gun that was held by Baldwin fired a round of live ammunition, wounding the film's director and killing its cinematographer, Helena Hutchins. Within hours, the accident was enveloped in a frenzy of media attention, and for months and years, lawsuits flew and criminal trials unfolded, and the tabloid spectacle of it all around the case overshadowed a very private and personal tragedy, which is the fact that someone actually lost their life in the process of this. So in Last Take, Helena's friend, director Rachel Mason, goes beyond the public narrative that we all know it to be, and she centers on the vantage point of the people at the center of that set, her friends on set, her crew on set, and all the things that unfolded leading up to that incident, who Helena was, who she wanted to be, and how they were going to honor her legacy moving forward. It's emotionally raw, it's deeply personal, and it seeks to redeem the core of the story that the media exploited in the process. That at the end of the day, this was a very talented cinematographer whose life story was minimized, yet in death gave her colleagues an unexpected opportunity to heal from unimaginable loss by completing the film that mattered deeply to her. It's a wonderful documentary. It's very short, but it gets to the point. And I think it is the best way to honor Helena and her life and her work. And the movie Rust will be seen in theaters. They have decided to release it into theaters. And so when it comes out, we'll all be able to see the beauty of her cinematography and the last bit of it from a life that was short-lived. All right, you guys. So that does it for me for this episode of the Curvy Film Critic with Carla Renata. Again, click that bell for notifications. If you're on YouTube, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you stopped by here. I got some nice stuff coming up with CinemaCon that I'll share with you guys then. And yeah, and then we got Sinners coming later on and some yummy stuff coming. You know, this time of the year is always a little funky because it's right after the Oscars and there's all that hype around the Oscars and it's like wah afterwards. So I'm doing my best to try to keep y'all apprised and keep you in the know. But having said that, I'll see you on the flip side. Love, peace, and hair grease until the next time. Deuces.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love, peace, and hair grease.